Hello and welcome to the OCD Illustrated channel. My name is Katie and I'm a young adult living with obsessive compulsive disorder. And all my videos are about obsessive compulsive disorder and fighting OCD. So today I've got a sample hierarchy video for you. Remember that a hierarchy is that list of exposure tasks ranked from least hard to most hard that you're going to do to fight your OCD. People with OCD experience obsessions, which are unwanted, repeated, intrusive thoughts, urges, or images that cause distress. And they use compulsions, which are repeated or ritualized mental or physical acts, to temporarily neutralize the distress caused by the obsessions. Using a harm obsession for this video, so the obsession might be, or is, I might lose control and stab somebody, which could be accompanied by intrusive graphic images or urges of actually doing that. Okay, so now I'm going to list some compulsions that would frequently accompany an obsession such as this one. The person might avoid touching knives or forks of all kinds. Avoid being in a room alone with somebody else because they would feel that, if there were 2 or 3 other people in a room with them, if they lost control and tried to stab somebody, there would be other people to prevent that. Whereas if it was just the person with OCD and somebody else, especially if it was somebody younger or weaker than them, that they could, more effectively stab somebody and injure them. A person with this obsession may not even like seeing sharp objects or photos of sharp objects. So they might cover their eyes or close their eyes to avoid looking at anything that reminds them of a sharp object. They might have a mental reassurance ritual that they do to neutralize intrusive images. So when they have an image or urge about stabbing somebody, they might say in their head, I won't kill anyone, I won't kill anyone, I won't kill anyone, and that temporarily reduces the distress. Okay, so I've shifted that obsession onto our steps to creating a hierarchy. So the obsession that I've picked is the I might lose control and stab someone obsession. And now the rest of this video is going to be about listing actions that would trigger the obsession because these are eventually going to become your exposure tasks. Remember that after you've made this list, the next thing would be to reorganize them in order of difficulty and then identify your working zone and start doing exposures. And I've got my list of tips for how to do step 2, so see if you can notice me doing these when I am making my list of potential tasks. So we're going to think of times and places that somebody does compulsions, think of things that they avoid. Once a task's identified, you can modify it to make it easier or harder. Think of things to write or say that trigger distress, which is called scripting, and I've got a whole video on that if you want to go take a look with some pretty extensive examples. And then to also include overcorrection exposures. Okay, thinking cap time. Hierarchy items. The person avoids holding forks, so one of the first items that can go on the hierarchy list is to have the person hold forks. And if they can't manage holding them, you can have them just touch it with one finger. There are different kinds of forks that could cause different levels of distress. So you could think about a plastic disposable fork versus a metal, dining fork, and experiment with using different kinds to see which one causes more anxiety. Similarly, the person in this example doesn't want to hold knives, so we're going to put holding knives right on that hierarchy list. Just like there are different kinds of forks that could help be different steps on the hierarchy, there are also different kinds of knives. So off the top of my head, I can think of plastic disposable knives, metal knives that are butter knives and not real sharp, and then metal knives that are really sharp, like a steak knife or a carving knife. You can include some tasks that the person probably avoids, like cutting up vegetables for cooking. If we've got somebody who doesn't even like looking at sharp objects, we want them to look at sharp objects. So looking at photos or looking at actual sharp objects. Maybe if we're going really higher in the hierarchy, we could have them put up pictures of sharp knives in their room or watch videos of people being stabbed. An idea for scripting would be to write or say, "I might stab somebody." A challenging version of that short script would be to add on a couple more words. So, "I might stab somebody and enjoy it." The person with OCD might be asked to sit next to a family member and hold a knife or fork, and that could be a whole variety of different things. That might be sitting down at a dinner table and eating dinner with a knife and fork, or it might be like a overcorrection exposure where the person is watching television next to their dad holding a carving knife. And okay, I kind of already said it, but there's different types of knives and forks, so holding different types of knives and forks might cause different levels of distress. Since the person in this example has sort of a ritualistic phrase they use to neutralize their anxiety, we can replace that with a phrase that increases their anxiety. So when they get an intrusive thought, rather than thinking, "I won't kill anyone, I won't kill anyone, I won't kill anyone," we could ask them to think, "Stab and die, stab and die, stab and die," which is going to cause a lot of distress. And the person might try writing a longer, like paragraph length script about going to jail for killing somebody and how they're going to have to live with that. The person could practice being in rooms with only one other person, and a more difficult level of that would be to practice being in a room with only one other person and a sharp object. Okay, my last idea is to set the table for dinner. This would probably be a starting off exposure. It's easier and it's also pretty naturalistic. It's something that people just kind of have to do. So if this was an exposure hierarchy for you, your next steps would be to reorganize all those items into least distressing to most distressing, and to find the ones that cause about a 3 or 4 level of distress.